Okay, guys, we've had the dust settle. Argentina versus the Lions. What a great game it was last weekend. And I've kind of taken some time to ingest everything that's going on, take in the commentary that's going around. And in all honesty, I'm a little bit surprised at just the negativity around things. So you don't get bored listening to someone else's commentary on this channel. I'll just kind of summarize what I thought the criticism was in these few clips here.
Duhan, learn to tackle! Oh, where's the leadership in this team? Marcus Smith, get a haircut!
Yes, all very Gen X, nondescript criticisms that to me don't make a huge amount of sense. And to me, it tells me of a team that didn't have enough time to prepare. I mean, we've all been there, right? I mean, it comes around to summertime, you haven't lost enough weight during the spring or the winter, and now you're just kind of like overweight in summer. You've not timed things correctly. You just didn't have enough time. I'm currently in that situation myself. But in all seriousness, there was a loss with the Lions, and there are some improvement points that I think the Lions can take forward and adapt how they play. Some real learning lessons from this Argentina game. So in this video, I'm hoping to go through those aspects, those bits and pieces that I've picked up during the game, and how the Lions can play better, more suited to the weapons that they have at their disposal, and how they can work together to create a team that can win down in Australia when it comes down time to do these series tests. I'm going to break this down into 5 key points that, in the way that they played against Argentina, break it down and talk about it a little bit. But I'm not going to talk about the obvious things. So team chemistry, for example, that's going to come more when they play more together, they hang out more together. Knock-ons, that was obviously a bit of an issue in there. I would lump that into that chemistry aspect. Like there's things and aspects that are very obvious here how we can work out how to do this. If you want to be more serious, just have them doing passing drills for like 4 hours if you're boring, right? Those are the obvious ones. I'm going to be talking in these 5 aspects, the less obvious ones, the way we can change the way the Lions play to be more successful. So, without further ado, let's talk about point 1. Yes, the high ball. It's no secret, I think, if you rewatch the game, or if you watched it the first time round, competition under the high ball was a bit of an issue for the British and Irish Lions. I do think there may be just a natural solution that comes off the back of this, in the fact that later on in the tour, once Blair Kinghorn's done with the top 14, he comes into this team and he's very safe under the high ball as a fullback. But at the same time, I think there is a way that they can mould their game style so that that isn't so much of an issue for them. Yes, Australia as an opposition might still go for box kicking. They might look to compete there. That is something that maybe you train towards. But I also think this can be affected in the way that the Lions attack. I think the way they counter-attack, rather than kicking for territory, is they run with the ball. They run with the ball. They are willing to run with the ball anywhere on the pitch, whether it's their own 22, whether it's, that's the most extreme example. I don't know what I was going to say after that point. My point is more the fact that with the talent that you have in the back line and the elements of that, there is so much potential for this team just to be able to run it from anywhere on the pitch, especially when the odds-on starter at fly half for these test series is going to be Finn Russell. That's very much in his wheelhouse and how to do it. And it kind of eliminates the kicking game out of this. For example, you have a long kick that's going towards yourself. You collect it because there's no competition, it's a long kick. You're willing to counter-attack. There's dog legs in the defence. You can set up for this by maybe keeping Finn Russell in that backline defence next to a 15, have some wingers that know what the score is. As soon as that ball's kicked, you're sprinting to get behind the line to go in on a counter-attack ability. You make a line break. Line break sets the defensive structure all higgledy-piggledy, and then you can just attack and attack and attack. And as long as you get gain line success, that attack stays deadly. We've seen that with Bristol and how they attacked this year. That was the secret to their success and how they were able to attack it anywhere on the pitch. It's because they made consistent line breaks, even from their own half, even from their own 22, all the way to the opposition's half, all the way to the opposition's try line, And that's very dependent also on your scrum half speed of ball. When you've got a scrum half like Jamison Gibson-Park, who's arguably one of the best in the world. DuPont has obviously probably got that title to himself, but Gibson-Park is a close second, in my opinion, at the moment, in terms of everything to do with the scrum half. But, he is famously incredibly good at getting the ball out quickly out the back of rucks. So that is a strength that I think that the Lions can really double down on. There are things that you can do to work on weaknesses, aka can we have more catch training, stuff like that. But I also think there's an element of playing to a team's strengths rather than just trying to patch up weaknesses, because the strengths, if you bolster those are the bits that the players enjoy doing. They're the ones they want to get better at. That's the ones they really want to kind of excel at, they enjoy at. This team, you look at some of these guys in this backline, like Finn Russell, Tuipulotu, Hugh Jones, Ringrose, the wingers as well, Doohan, Tommy Freeman. These guys all love running with ball in hand, and I think it's only going to be a good thing to have them excelling elements of their game that they're already good at. Practice that, really play into your strengths in that. Talking about playing to your strengths, let's go on to point 2, and that is the scrum. The scrum was a real good focal point of this Lions team against Argentina. They won more penalties at the scrum than was probably expected from a cobbled together team that had only had a week's training together. The scrum is such a complex art to get right. It requires, again, a lot of chemistry that it was surprising it was there in terms of the cohesion of the scrum unit. There's also arguments that a lot of the top players in the scrum, such as Dan Sheehan, Andrew Porter, weren't available for this game. They will be. And some of the dominant players like Ellis Genge will be great coming off the bench and, being able to utilise their ability when players are a little bit more tired against their opposition when we're talking about those Australia tests. How do you use the scrum to your advantage? I think it really ties into the first point that I made in terms of being willing to run the ball out of your own half, out of your own 22. If you have a scrum advantage, knock-ons either side, whether they are you're making the knock-on or the opposition are making a knock-on, they turn into not only a break in play, but they also you can get an advantage at scrum time. A good example of this was Rugby World Cup 2023, England versus South Africa semi-final. As an England fan, I was holding on hope right until the end that England could win it. What happens? Oxenshade, the rest of the bomb squad comes on. The scrum goes from being a competitive, it was competitive in terms it was 50-50, and then it goes into basically South Africa winning scrum penalties every single scrum, no matter whose putting it was, right? Whether it was South Africa that were knocking the ball on, whether it was England knocking the ball on, it was a penalty to South Africa. They can then kick it 30, 40 metres down the side of the pitch and get a line out, or if they're in penalty range, they can go and get 3 points, which in a knockout game, like the Test series, will be, not knockout games, but you know what I mean, they're trying to win it. It's not for a league match. You understand what I'm saying. In a situation like that, that can be the difference between winning and losing a game, right? So don't be afraid to run from your own side of the pitch, because if there is a knock-on, you can win the penalty. And even if you don't win the penalty, as we are seeing more and more often, referees are more willing to just let ball go outside of scrums, no matter if it's collapsed, as long as the ball gets out the scrum when we go. However, if you're in a defensive scrum and you've got dominance and you don't get the penalty, you can shift the scrum into certain directions, certain angles where it's not advantageous for the opposition attack. They don't get a clean set piece first phase attack, whether the scrum half has to run around the scrum and pass it to a fly half that's the opposite side of the scrum than when it was wheeled round to. Whether you have your flankers and your eights too committed to trying to engage with the drive because they're just trying to hold on and make sure the scrum doesn't go backwards. That means they can't just get a free clear off to unbound from the scrum, or if you're an 8, you can't just take the ball cleanly and then pop it off and act as a first receiver. It just messes everything up in that first phase attack. So rely on it. Rely on that scrum. You're already showing without some of your clear starters that you're going to be having in the Test series. I think Dan Sheehan, unless he gets injured, is probably the clear case of being in that starting 2 shirt amongst other players. Take advantage of it. Don't be afraid to run from your own half. Don't be afraid to kind of try the spectacular, try the unusual, because, the mistakes aren't going to be as... they're not going to have as much of an effect as, if your scrum wasn't as strong as it is. And that brings me on to the next point of order. We've seen success with this with multiple teams, South Africa probably being the most famous, but you can see as South Africa have taken on this 6-2 bench, what is known as the bomb squad, it has become commonplace in a vast majority is probably an overstretch, but a lot more sides in the club game and the domestic game are starting to take this on as an advantage that they can use. There's been complaints by idiots, to be honest with you, that it's unsafe, that it's blah, 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 blah. It's all talk, it's all yap. The reality is, it's a rule that you can use, you can do it, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. And when you have this talented pack, that you have all of these players in there that are from all over the British Isles, and you're going to have great scrummagers coming off the bench. You're going to have some power forwards that you can bring off the bench. Like, for example, if you're going to be starting with Van der Fleer and Jack Conan in your starting lineup, maybe Jack Morgan at the 6, this is all going to be worked out when we go through the tour. You can bring on some real power forwards in that. Ben Earl coming off the bench is going to be a nightmare for a team as terms of a jackler and also as a ball carrier. That will be like your Quagga Smith like equivalent that South Africa have. Use this to your advantage. It's not just the forwards that play into this ability as well. It's also the flexibility that you have in these back picks for the tour, for the tourists that you have. So, for example, you've got Marcus Smith who can play 15, who can play 10. You've got Elliot Daly who can play 13, 15, winger. You've got all these players that can play multiple positions. Tommy Freeman can play 13, 15. Tui Pelotu can show that he didn't have his best game at there, but he can play 13. He can play 12. You have so much flexibility in where these backs can play. Blair Kinghorn, 15, 11. All of them can play in different positions. You might as well kind of have a super sub that can cover so many positions in that backline in a 6-2 bench, and you can really take advantage of the tools that you have available to you. So that's my next point. The next point after that, practice makes perfect. Line-out was an issue. Missed line-outs, missed throws, missed calls. This is a chemistry issue. Line-outs have become more and more and progressively have become, they've become more of a cottage industry. More and more of it is complex moves where someone runs forwards and run back and swap places. You've changed the scrum half for a forward to drive directly on for a maul, but it's not. It's a fake because the scrum half comes from 10 metres. It's all very convoluted. It's very complex. And it takes time. So much so that it's almost like set-piece moves and first phase ball for backs has been for many years. This is going to come with time. You're also going to have a more accurate thrower than Cowan Dickey probably starting, as I've talked about with Dan Sheehan. This is just a practice makes perfect. I probably could have linked this into what I was talking about in terms of not covering the obvious points. But I think it was such an issue that I thought maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more. That was kind of like a half issue, so sorry, I feel like I've cheated you there a little bit. But I'm going to give you a real issue here. Yes, I made a joke about it, but Marcus Smith, get a haircut. It's not because I think Marcus Smith needs a haircut. I think he has the best hair on the team. No doubt in my mind. I'm jealous of his hair as a bald man myself. But what would send a message more out to the rest of the world that this Lions tour means business, that Marcus Smith shaves his head completely and he says, I'm not growing my hair out until we've won a Lions series, right? That would show you're getting busy, you're getting ready, you're getting serious, and you're ready for this series. You're ready to take it seriously. It's all about shaved heads, united front. Don't understand really the connection there, but it sounded better when I wrote it on paper. Anyway, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who watched this far, you're true fans of this show. And so I'll give you a little bit of what the plan is over the coming months. My focus really is solely going to be on the British and Irish Lions. I hope to be doing a game review for every single game they do, including the games against all the domestic teams. And I'm hoping to also do the mid-series game that they'll have. It's probably like a bit of fun. That's the plan. The plan may change. A lot going on in my life at the moment. But that's what I'm going to be doing. here and there, I might do bonus game reviews of some of the big internationals. I will still be watching some of these international games. I've got penciled in, Australia, Fiji. That obviously has significance to this tour. And I will be watching the England games against Argentina series, but whether I'll actually do videos on that, that's a different question. There's obviously lots of international series happening at the moment, but this channel will mainly focus on the British and Irish Lions in the coming weeks. And I'm excited about it. But hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one.